What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. As always, we are streaming to you guys live on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. Guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure to first and foremost check out the Twitter page at DSM_media. Smash that follow button and then check out the link tree in our bio. It'll take you to every other platform we are available on. Most specifically, most importantly, the YouTube channels, the Turf Talk YouTube channel, the Scotty Talks NBA YouTube channel, and this one right here, as you can see on your screen, the Dash Philadelphia YouTube channel. Subscribe, share it, like it, whatever you got to do to continue to grow this channel with us. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. The Sixers walk into TD Garden on Christmas afternoon and upset the Boston Celtics as 9.5-point road underdogs. It is the third time that the big three of Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Paul George have started and finished the game together. And in that three-game span, the Sixers are 3-0. Where are you on the Sixers right now? 11-17 on the year, half a game out of the 10 seed, which is that final playoff spot, that final play-in spot. Just before we approach the new year. So a lot of time, but a lot of ground to still make up. So we're going to be talking Sixers today, man. And then the Eagles, Kelly Green week, Dallas week, can clinch the NFC East week, but they're going to most likely have to do so without Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett looks like he's going to get the start, and even he is not 100%. The weather is not 100%. In fact, it might have a 100% chance of rain on Sunday afternoon, man. No CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys. Things are going to get weird. The Eagles and Cowboys were flexed out of the 4:25 slots back to 1 p.m. That tells you all you need to know about what's happening in this game. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into it, and the Eagles posturing for seeding and clinching this division and wrapping it up before we get into that Week 18 finale against the Giants, man. But happy Friday, brother. What is going on?
Yes, sir. Happy Friday, man. Definitely some internet connection things going on here. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, see you perfectly. You're good.
Oh, okay. It's completely frozen on my side, but I'll just roll with it, man. No, I'm feeling good on this Friday, man. Especially with the Sixers and where they're at. Obviously, looking more healthy than they've been. Quite honestly, throughout the entire season so far. So hopefully with this 5-game stretch, it's been talked about a lot on X at least about this next 5-game stretch, and hopefully they can take advantage and get this team on the right track for real. On the other side, man, you mentioned it, the Eagles game this Sunday. It's gonna get extremely weird. But nonetheless, I do have confidence that Kenny Pickett should be able to lead us in the right direction, man.
Can he outplay Cooper Rush? That's what it's going to come down
to.
Can
he outplay Cooper Rush?
Cooper Rush without CeeDee Lamb. And not to mention, you have a guy wearing the number 26 behind you. And it's why I know that Washington was able to change up their game plan and stack the box, and it really frustrated the Eagles' game plan. But that was that was a split-second change of plan for the Eagles' offense and Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni. You get an entire practice week to really implement Kenny Pickett, get the rhythm and timing down with the receivers, and just come up with a slightly different game plan, right? You're not going to alter a ton of it. They still let Kenny drop back and sling it last week in his short action. But they can obviously tailor it to what best fits him and Saquon, and not just allow the Cowboys and Micah Parsons to pin their ears back, load up the box, and come after Saquon Barkley over and over and over again. But before we get into the Birds, man, because it's been heavy Eagles conversation for good reason. I want to give the Sixers a little bit of good grace today, and I want to kick off the show with them because that was a Christmas miracle. That was a Christmas performance if I've ever seen one, man. 9.5-point dogs. I texted you. I did lay the spread. I had to just give it a little bit of fun, give it a little bit of intrigue. But was I expecting them to win this game outright? No. Was I expecting them to basically take this from tip to end? No. I mean, the Celtics had a lead at 9-8, and then for a split second later on in the second half, that is the only time the Celtics took control of this game for half a minute. And the Sixers just kept fighting and kept going and kept going. This was without Andre Drummond as the backup center. This was without KJ Martin. So it's not like the Sixers were fully healthy. And yes, the Boston Celtics were without their point guard, Jrue Holiday. But nonetheless, man, I want to talk about Joel Embiid for a second. And this isn't to say about Monday's show. Let me walk that back. No, I don't walk any of it back. I want to say this, though. What he's done the last 2 games between the ejection and the fire I saw that night, and then what he did in Boston and saying Merry Christmas and waving to that crowd. And we know the relationship between Boston and Philly and Joel specifically, and the way he played. Embrace it. He's been a villain for the last 3 years nationally. Other fan bases hate him. They talk about the flops, the injuries. They make fun of him. He's the villain. Just embrace it. Embrace it with me if you have to. I don't care. Do it in spite of me. Yeah. Take everything I said about you Monday and just shove it back in my face if that's what I'm going to get, man. That was such a huge win and just a turning of the tides for me with this team if they can stay healthy. I know that's the big question mark with them, but Joel, aside from embracing the villain role and the fire that he has lit under him right now, Scotty, he looked over the start of the 2 games ago, and especially in this Celtics game, he's looking a little quicker. That knee's responding well. He looks a little better getting back in transition. He looks a little bit quicker and smoother defensively around the rim. So those are things that are just going to start easing my mind when it comes to the game plan for Joel Embiid, because he wasn't himself in the limited action we've seen him in with that brace to start the year. He looked a little bit more like himself, man. 4 for 5 from 3, too. He was phenomenal, and he wasn't even the story of the game on Christmas Day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're spot on, man. You gave all the love needed to Joel. I will say he's looking better and obviously looking healthier. A little bit of a scare before the game, right? With the ankle.
Yeah, only he could have that happen.
We just can't go get through Christmas without a scare of Joel Embiid, further injury, but was able to suit up. Obviously played really well, man. But the guy on Christmas, obviously Caleb Martin. We're going to talk about him a little bit. But Tyrese Maxey, man. Tyrese Maxey, and just the last stretch that he has been on the last few games, man. 33 points in this one, 32 points in the game before that, 27 points, 23, 40, 22, 25. What is going on?
You are completely frozen. I didn't want to interrupt you. I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, what is going on?
So if you want to jump out and try to jump back in.
Give me a second, man.
I'll continue this on and pick up your point about Tyrese, man. So let me just see. There we go. We'll get Scotty back in here in a second. Martian, I know you're excited about the Sixers, man, but I do agree with what he's saying. Tyrese Maxey was ultimately the biggest proponent, the biggest difference maker in this game, no matter how clutch and how big Caleb Martin was, no matter how good Joel looked. Gershon Yabusele, we're going to talk about all of it, but Tyrese leading the way with 33. Not uber efficient from 3 for 9, but just getting to the rim. And Philly is starting to mold Tyrese a little bit. Looking over at Joe Mazzulla, looking at the fan base chirping. You have who guarding me? Come get your boy. Come get Sam Hauser. Come get Peyton Pritchard. Anytime they try to attack Tyrese Maxey with one of those 2 guards, it did not work out in Boston's favor, and he took full advantage of it. And that's what you want to see. And I think, again, to continue talking about the importance of Joel staying healthy and these 3 just playing together, man, this was the first time all year. This was Christmas, December 25th, the first time all year that we've seen Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid's game together look fluid, look like them former selves, where they're just feeding off of one another. Tyrese Maxey's not deferring, looking out of place. Paul George, I know he was 0 for 7 from 3, did not shoot well, but they didn't look out of place. It wasn't just one man get the ball this possession, another man get the ball this possession. It was the first time all year, at least those 2 in Maxey and Embiid fed off of each other and just went bucket for bucket for bucket against this Boston defense. And that's another thing, right? You're talking about that team, that opponent. You were able to walk into their building. Kristaps Porzingis is playing. Al Horford, we know the history behind him guarding Joel Embiid. We know the history behind Maxey against like the Heat and the Celtics in the past, and how they have kind of tried to handle him. Both of them absolutely cooked, man. Let's see He's got this. I think he does. I think it's the 3. Is it this? And puts it on the hand, bro. He has been an absolute dog. And the chirping part I absolutely love because he's the nicest kid ever, it seems like. Always has a smile on his face, always the Energizer Bunny. But you do need that killer instinct. And we know we've seen it on the floor, the game-saving shot against in the Garden against the Knicks. We know he has that clutch gene in him. But there comes a little bit of an attitude and a swagger along with that. And he's starting to adapt to that as well. Paul George, we could talk about that before Scotty comes back in because I definitely want to continue on with some of the positives. Paul George hasn't looked good. He had a game a week and a half ago where he and Maxey both went off, and Maxey, was in the postgame interview and telling the media how he told Paul George, bro, you go be Paul George. Take any shot you want. You're Paul George. Since then, he has not shot the ball well. 4 for 15 in 34 minutes. Didn't hit a 3 on 7 attempts. He was a minus 16. Funny enough, Joel was a minus 18, but that's because the Sixers had that crazy run without any of the big 3 on the floor at one point in this game. But yeah, Paul, I don't know. I guess it's just hope, right? We just have to hope that Paul George starts to shoot better and on a more consistent basis because we've seen it this year. We've seen him go out and hit 5, 6, 7 threes. We've seen him drop 30, 28, 26. It's just he's not doing it nearly consistently enough, and the lows are low. 0 for 7 from 3 in this game is mind-boggling bad. The only thing I can add to it, I was sitting there watching with my uncle, and he kind of threw out the point, like, it's a shame and because it feels like he's doing everything else well, right? He brings size to the defensive side against those wings, so he was able to guard decently in this game. He group rebounds, he gets up and he'll grab you a big board. He had 3 steals and a block and only 1 turnover in this game. So it feels like he does the little things very well still, which is going to help this team, but you need a former 40+% 3-point shooter just from a year ago to be somewhere in the ballpark, not 42%. Can you give me 36% from 3, 37% from 3? Somewhere in that ballpark is where you're going to need Paul George to be at for this team to reach its ultimate ceiling. But I guess, I don't know. I guess we just have to continue to wait and let this team mold and grow together. Let me just check in with Scotty. He'll be back in a minute. He's good. Yeah, it's just going to continue to take reps, man. And I know that shouldn't make sense for shooting a basketball at this point of his career, but it is. It's just going to take that. And if you want to take a positive from Paul George's bad shooting night, you can look at it that they walked into Boston and handled them and beat them through 4 quarters. And Paul George didn't shoot the ball well. You got help from other areas. I would trade PG for Jimmy right now. I don't know, man. What's Jimmy? I haven't even paid attention. I feel like Jimmy Butler hasn't played. I could be way off. I just haven't paid attention to Miami Heat this year at all. But what is Jimmy Butler doing at this point of his career right now? He hasn't played in his last 3. Played 7 minutes against the Thunder. He's averaging about 18.5, 35.7 from 3, but we know he only shoots 1, maybe 2 a game max. 6 boards, 5 assists, a steal and a half a block in about 31.5 minutes. I don't know. I really don't. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that I would stick with Paul George no matter how asinine that might sound right now. But I'm just trying to stick with the fit and the reasoning and not just jump ship a month in right now, man. TR, somehow PG is shooting the best at the rim on the whole team. That's another thing. He's 4-4 from the free throw line. He's finishing around the rim. So as long as he'll get out of that shooting slump at some point. He's a career close to 40% 3-point shooter. Those things will never leave him. 2025 Sixers. I'm trying to take it all back in. I'm trying to take back all the negativity because a win like that can definitely put this team back in my good graces. And they have, because now we've seen what these 3 and what these complementary pieces can look like all together against the best team in the NBA potentially. It's just, can you do it on a consistent basis now? I do see Scotty is trying to climb back in the background. If you can hear me, Scotty, I can't. Your screen is black. So we'll continue to get this figured out. His driving kick has been helpful. Yeah, the only thing I need now, I can see you. The only thing I need Paul George to stop doing is jumping up in the air before he has an idea or a decision made on where he wants the ball to go, because he's got a couple turnovers just that are logged up in here of him jumping with not really sure where he wants to go and throwing the ball back court, across court, getting picked off, going the other way for an easy bucket. So his playmaking ability won't leave, even if he's not shooting the ball well right now. And he's doing a lot of the little things better. Let's see. Yeah, he'll be back. He'll be back in here shortly. Just keep you guys updated. We're going to talk about Mike in a little bit, man. We're going to talk about this Eagles-Cowboys game in a little bit. I just want to start the Sixers because they've been in the doghouse. And when you go out and you've won 8 of your last 11, you're right back into the playoff picture. Not that you really ever left it. If there was one thing that was consistent in our negativity about the Sixers on the show, it was the fact that the Eastern Conference was so weak that you were never quite out of, being anywhere in the top 7 or 8 seed. The fact of the matter is, I believe they're only 3.5 games out of the 6 seed at the moment. So they're right where I guess you could hope they'd be after starting 3-14, 3-15, whatever the hell we started. So they're playing very, very good basketball at the moment. They're playing team basketball. And you just need to stay healthy. I guess my big thing about Monday was I'm tired of just having to have that hope. I'm tired of just hoping that this team stays healthy because, of course, let's see. I think that might have been brought up. And when you said 12-15, I was like, did he mean the date 12-15? But no, winning 12 of 15 before the new year, and that's quite literally the pace that they are on right now. So we'll see if we can get Scotty back in here. But Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, very, very good to see them look the way they did. My man, Happy New Year.
Yeah, I do not know, man. Today is just pure hell when it comes to
you
internet.
Good now?
But not really, man. I won't lie to you. I was good up until I put myself on the screen. Okay, I can see myself talking now. That is a relief. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what the hell was going on there. That was the craziest thing ever, because while I was talking there, and I guess I was froze on your end, it was like a different language going across my screen. It was like as if aliens had taken over my MacBook, bro. I really don't know, but everything seems to be going good now. So let's just pick up where you left off here, man.
Keep it going, brother. But
we're talking about how shitty Paul George has been.
Shitty's a strong word. We were talking about the shooting woes and the shooting struggles, but I did think he did a lot of the small things in this one to help this team, which is the annoying part, right? Because you focus on the missed corner 3 and the missed wing 3 in a big moment when you're trying to bury the Boston team, and your main takeaway is, dude, this dude sucks. He can't. But then you see him go up and get a rebound over Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis within the final 2 minutes, and it's like, that's a huge board. Now let's go get a bucket. Somebody else take a shot. But yeah, Joe, the other thing I said that I'll let you comment on here, man, is again, we haven't seen it a lot this year of these 3 play together and Tyrese and Joel play together, but it was the first time at least that their game looked fluid together again on the court. There was no deferring between one another. There was no Maxey looking out of place and just standing aside while Joel goes ISO, vice versa. It was just the Batman and Robin connection that we saw against the Knicks at times last year. And in this one, it was the first time all year we saw that. So that is huge for me moving forward, man, because they're 2 superstars and there's only one ball, and you have other guys, and you have a guy in Paul George who's a max. I understand it can take time to figure it out, but it shouldn't be a problem with Embiid and Maxey. So for them to get back on the same page was huge.
Yeah, I completely agree. Exactly what Gint said as well there. Yeah. With Maxey, man, you just start to think back to the offseason, and it's just a very different offseason than what he's been able to experience throughout his career. So it's kind of like been like the little hint that I've had like towards the way he's played, especially at the beginning of the season where it was kind of poor, right? Especially for Maxi's standards, especially when it comes to the shooting numbers and what we've gotten used to him shooting over his career, man, especially from the 3-point line, which that's definitely starting to come back. Even in November, he shot like 40% from the 3-point line for the month. So even since the first month of the season, he shot the three ball a lot better. But now you're starting to see the games with assists. He's getting other guys involved. He had 12 assists against Boston, and I think that's even bigger than him leading the way scoring, right? Because that comes with a level of comfortability, a level of confidence in what's going on around you. And like you said, having Joel there, it just shows a level of chemistry between the two. But I do think just Maxey getting this max contract this offseason and the way that he had to kind of wait, and he had this down period where you just couldn't work out. You couldn't do your normal training procedures that you would do in the offseason. And we saw him talking about it on social media. Like he had to go on vacation for the first time in his career and really just not pick up a basketball. And it was also he could get his bag, right? You didn't want to ruin that opportunity. It makes sense. But ultimately, he missed out on what, a month, 2 months, 3 months of basketball where he could work on his game and develop and get better. And I think now we're just, like Gint said earlier in the comment, he's starting to get in his groove, and he's actually been able to work on things. He had the injury early on in the season as well. That kind of holds you back. So, of course, it's just been another, level of bad luck in a sense in the way Sixers have to handle things. Because I do think the offseason did impact, especially the start for Maxey's season. But he's getting in a groove now, man. And the things are starting to look a little bit more like what I expected from Maxey this year, which is 27 to 33 points a game, up near 10 assists a game. Yeah, I do want to see him heavily involved in the offensive output. And it's what we talked about, man. It's about giving him the keys in the regular season. Let Joel take passenger seat in the regular season if that's what it takes to get him to the playoffs healthy. Same thing with Paul George. Now, obviously, you want him to do a little bit more. But if you can just take any amount of pressure off of those two to get them through the season healthy, then Maxey's the guy to do that.
Right. And I think something that was really stood out in this game that we haven't hit on was Tyrese Maxey on the other side of the floor.
Yeah,
he's not the liability that his size and weight and previous, opinions would previous years you think he is on the defensive side of the floor, man. Yeah. I know everyone just talks about the one Tatum clip, and that was awesome, but it's not just that clip, man. The fact that a lot of playing the defense in the NBA, man, at this level is just pure want to.
Yeah.
That's what most of it comes down to. And the fact that you see him out there against this team taking on Jason Tatum late in the game was huge. So, yeah, I agree. He can't get moved around as easily. You can't try to pick on him as easily, and that's going to pay dividends later on in the year. So, Tyrese Maxey put together a full performance on Christmas Day, dude. So, he was awesome. Yeah. Paul George has to shoot better. We all know this. Joel Embiid was really good in this one. The fire continues to be lit. But there were also some role players that were out fucking standing in this game, man. Let's start with the guy in the starting lineup. That was Caleb Martin. And it was the first time since he's put on a 76er uniform that you can sit back and go, that's why you signed Caleb Martin. And I'm going to be honest, because if you want to get to the NBA Finals, if you want to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, if you want to, just get to that ultimate goal, you are more than likely going to have to see this team. So if this is the only team that Caleb Martin is great against, I'll fucking take it. Because if he does anything, no, he's not shooting 7 for 9 on a consistent basis. But I did see a number that his 3-point percentage against Boston is fucking out of this world, dude.
Give us one game in a playoff series of that. Just give us one, and it can change the entire series. We saw that when we played Boston just 2 years ago with James Harden. How if just one guy outside of Joel Embiid and James Harden steps up in game 4 or 5 of that series back in Philly, where you have them on the ropes, and then Jason Tatum just goes nuclear whatever game that was, right? If another guy just stepped
Game
up,
6.
if D'Anthony Melton could just hit a wide open three in the corner, you probably win that basketball game. And that's what we're talking about here with Caleb Martin, man. So it is a big deal to even see that level of confidence against Boston. That's something that we have struggled with, man.
No, but that gives me big game vibes, and that's what I'm looking for in these role players, man. And you see it in Maxey, like that's what I'm looking for in this team if we can get to the playoffs, right? Having that in Caleb Martin is fucking huge. The defensive aspect, because it's funny, like I said, big game hunting, because when you go back and watch him against some of these other teams, these lesser teams, not that I want guys playing down, but I'm coming on here saying to you, like, where's that defender we see? Like, I thought we got him to guard the Tatums and the Jaylen Browns. Well, there you go. So I'll zip this for now. Again, if this is what I'm getting in the postseason, in big games, in big moments against Boston, etc., then I will take a backseat and zip it when it comes to some of these regular season performances. Just get me there.
It is interesting in this game, man. I'm looking obviously through the box score now.
Martian's never happy, bro. Like, I'm not saying like big picture we have to celebrate this, but like he's bringing up the Embiid turnover. He's going back to last year, how role player helped us. Like, bro, just enjoy the W.
I did want to comment. I wanted to comment on the Joel turnover at the end of the game because it's partly his fault, but it's partly the other players' faults as well. Why are you passing it to your center in a corner of a basketball court on the opposite end of half court where he needs to get over to the other side of the court, and it can be easily double teamed, right? Like, you're putting him in a bad predicament. I don't know if that's Nick Nurse design, if that's player design, if that's player decision making, but the ball doesn't need to be in your center's hands to bring it up the court.
Not 90 feet.
I get the complaint, but I don't know that it's even Joel's fault in that case. Yeah, it's his fault for maybe running to the ball for sure. But no, I did agree with that point. But the interesting thing in here, and it's more just to point out how plus minus is just so weird. But Joel Embiid a minus 18 in this game.
A team
Paul
high.
George minus 16. Oubre minus 10. But everybody off the bench plus 18 for
you. Got to remember they had like an 18-3 or 18-4 run without Joel and the big three on there. So
that shifted the entire plus minus.
That skews every single little stat. But Caleb Martin was phenomenal, man. It was huge to see. And again, there's some positives to take away within some of the negative performances as well. I said it with Paul George. Like, Paul George has not been good consistently, but we've seen the moments this year where he hits 5 or 6 threes. We know it's still there. That's not going to fade just immediately. So you can take that away. Kelly, 0 for 2 from 3, only took 6 shots, a minus 10, 4 points in 38 minutes. You won a game in which Kelly Oubre Jr. did not attribute on the offensive end really at all. The other player I really wanted to talk about, Kyle Lowry was also.
Can I just say one thing about Oubre as well? Sure. I love that he didn't shoot a hole into the rim. You know what I mean? He didn't overdo it. He took 6 shots in this game. Wasn't his night. Rhythm was off, whatever. Didn't force it. I did like that as well, man.
I got to say, I'm just on the ESPN website right now. And normally, I'm shocked it just didn't say coach's decision. Eric Gordon was a DNP with oral surgery, if you were.
Interesting. Very specific.
If you were wondering what his designation was.
Man, the bench was short in this one.
Yeah, man. And 2 of them were guards with Lowry and Reggie Jackson. So very, very short in this one. Obviously, you're down McCain for the year. KJ didn't play. Ricky didn't. KJ and Andre were out. Ricky didn't get run. Gordon was out. So very short. And I think another positive you could take away from it. However, there was a bench player I got to give kudos to, man, because again, you're talking about playing that team in that spot. Seeing Gershon Yabusele fit and belong on the court in this moment is pretty big, right? Because it's one thing to have a guy like Yabusele make his return to the NBA on a very cheap deal, and he's able to attribute and look good against the Hornets or the Pistons or the Spurs, etc. But to see him do what he did against Boston and their bench and counteract their bench, 12 points in 21 minutes, 2 for 4 from 3, 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal, no turnovers, and a plus 18 overall, man. To have that dude fit, solidifies him. If there were any questions, not that people are questioning, I just mean in the big picture, when you're talking about shrinking the bench, he's a guy that without a doubt is going to be getting run for the Sixers come March and April and hopefully May.
There are people questioning it, though, man. He's obviously on a 1-year contract. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason. I've seen a lot of talk about should you keep him for this year only, knowing that you're going to lose him, or should you try to trade him and get value back?
So we're being what? So we're being sellers at the deadline. Then that's what you want to do. You sign. I know it's not looking good. I know it's not.
Yeah.
But if these three are playing, if it's George, Maxey, and Embiid, you're telling me you're going to sell at the deadline with those three as your core.
I don't see. I think this next month, January, is going to be huge in deciding some decisions. I personally wouldn't move Gershon just because he's your best bench player. Let's be honest. He's your best guy off the bench. He's better than Drummond. He's better than who else? Kyle Lowry. He's more valuable than those guys to me. And I think you can replace one of these guards at the trade deadline for something minimal. So when I look at it from that perspective, I agree with you ultimately. I think if you're going to go and you're trying to make a run this year in the postseason, Gershon's in that picture. And, man, we took a chance on him. He took a chance on us. You don't know how those conversations go. He might be willing to take less. I'm not saying he should from a personal standpoint of his well-being. I'm just saying he might take less to stay with the Sixers, who went out and grabbed him. The French connection.
With Joel.
If you still count it with Joel, even though he didn't play for France. I do feel like that played a part. But to your point, man, to have that type of value and that type of effort against his old team, the team that, it just didn't work out with his first try in the NBA was also interesting. He's another guy that's going to have that grudge against Boston, which is what we need, man. They need to have that same energy that the fan base has towards Boston fans and their team. They need to operate with that same type of
Joel has had it, but in the past it just seems like there's been teammates that will be buddy afterwards, and I don't know that that's the case. And seeing Tatum and the guys get into it, first of all, I am so tired of that fucking dude. I am so happy that Steve Kerr kept his ass on the bench. People, man, people want to talk about Joel, and I'll even take it a step further. And people want to talk about Jalen Brunson and in the past Trae Young and the flopping, and it's very annoying. Don't get me wrong, but it's bad for the sport and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, but it's real cool to watch this dude throw his left arm out every single time he's in isolation. It's an offensive foul every time. And in fact, I thought they called one on him. He complained, and then it ended up being a foul on Caleb Martin for the hook. For some reason, we just got booted off of Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know why, but that's cool. We'll just keep it. All right. We're live only on YouTube right now. So maybe that's better. If you guys were watching on Twitter, no idea if you guys can see this or not, but make sure to check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. It's been a hell of a day. But
Fridays, man, what the hell?
Yeah. Martian, one more thing before we get to the Eagles. I do just want to ask this question.
What's that?
Nick Nurse, right? Because that's a guy that's been put in our crosshairs over the last couple of weeks and months and how this season has played out. We saw him tinker with the starting lineup when the guys were fully healthy to start. When Joel and Paul George first made their returns, and we saw him move one of Caleb and Kelly to the bench and the other one come off. Yabusele, we weren't sure. Now, obviously, Drummond couldn't play, so that pushes his hand. But against Boston, a team with all that length, those wings, all that size, it's what you envision that starting five to look like. You have to give a little bit of kudos to the fact that he put out that starting five, didn't play with it. He didn't start Kyle Lowry as the other guard. He didn't do any of that nonsense. He gave them all big-time minutes. He gave Yabusele big-time minutes. He shrunk the bench. I know there were injuries, but he still shrunk it to 8. I give Nick Nurse props in this game big time. The inbound play to Maxey at the end of the game where he bobbles it and then regathers and finishes right before the shot clock ends. That's a beautiful play. So Nick Nurse as well gets kudos on the win, not just the losses.
I definitely appreciate you bringing up Nick Nurse because I know I specifically have been kind of hard on him to start this season. Obviously, it's not been great. And I think, when you start to judge a coach, it can get a little foggy just because everything that's going on. Like, would I be able to make the right decisions in those positions, right? My biggest thing was probably Jared McCain usage early on, but he started using him, and then, of course, bad luck strikes. But, I think at the end of the day, he realized that this game was bigger than even you or I thought going into this game. And he treated it as if it was a playoff matchup, man. He did restrict the rotation to 8 guys. Starters played heavy minutes. Joel Embiid, I think, played the least amount of minutes of the starters. Obviously, injury management in that situation, but the rest of those guys played 35 plus, basically, which is what's going to happen in a playoff series. But I think when you look at Nick Nurse and how he must have looked at this game, this is a season-changing type of win, man. Like, it can propel you. You go into these next 5 games. I mentioned it earlier. Go into this, you get 4 out of 5, man, and the season starts to look a whole lot different. We've already talked about the shape of the Eastern Conference and how, I don't want to say easy, but it's just not that far that you have to get back to get, back in the mix of things.
12-4 in your last 16?
Yeah, to that point, man. So, the Jazz in Utah, you need to win that game, obviously.
I know Golden State's
Trailblazers in Portland. Trailblazers in Portland. That needs to be a win. The Kings, I mean, at this point, needs to be a win. The Warriors would be the one exception in Golden State. You're on the road trip. It's like the fourth game on the West
you
Coast.
Beat Golden State, but you drop one, you shown it. If you offset it with that, it's whatever. But 4 or 5 is definitely what I'm looking for at this point.
Brooklyn is after that. So, yeah. You should be able to beat, ideally, you beat Brooklyn, Sacramento, Portland, and Utah.
And if any Sixers or Nick Nurse or anyone on the staff is listening, when we get to that Brooklyn matchup, let's not double team Ben Simmons out the 3-point line with the game on the line and leave an open 3-point shooter. Let's not.
We are back, Martian. We are back, man. Like, this is all I needed to see.
Yeah. I mean, because to be fair, I've been I can't ignore how the season started, and I can't ignore my frustrations with last weekend and deciding to play against Charlotte and not in Cleveland, and you need to win as many games as you can. But to Gid's point earlier, you've won 8 of 11. You know what I mean? So if you do go 4-1 in your next 5, my question would be, like, at what point do we stop all the negativity? Because, it started incredibly ugly, and it was a season from hell. You have to take into account who was playing and who was not and everything like that. And if they win 12 of their next 16, if they go or 13 of their next 17, like, at what point do we just start to get back to, this is a good basketball team? The record doesn't deflect it necessarily because of how the season started.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you win 13 of 17 games, you're back on the right track. And if it's all throughout the course of Joel, Paul, and Maxey playing consistent minutes together, that's what we wanted. So we do, again, it's going to take more work. It's not just completely resolved right now. But if they continue on this winning path, at some point in the new year, we're going to have to put aside the 3-14 start and go, okay, this team is good. This team is fine.
There's some key parameters where you'll be able to tell if this team is rolling or not, right? Mm-hmm. Paul George, play better. Like, obviously, shoot the ball better, fit in better, look better on offense. That's the main concern here. That's one parameter, one measuring point that you can say, oh, the Sixers are rolling right now. All 3 of their big 3 are playing some really good basketball. Getting Andre Drummond back healthy and getting him back into that backup center role specifically. That's another measurement point of, they're playing better. This rotation is looking a lot better. I think if you can get KJ Martin back, man, he was looking solid in the rotation during this last 10 to 12 game stretch where Nick Nurse was really putting him in the lineup, even starting him in some games. That's another guy you get back. He gets in the rotation. Get him once again comfortable. Maybe he is coming off the bench permanently now that we get Caleb Martin going in the right direction. But I think there's a couple different, measurement points of, the Sixers are really, really back. They're really playing some good basketball. But right now, man, Maxey and Embiid, these next 5 games, they can get it done for us if they play the right way. and lead this team the right way, as they should, man, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and look, I think the biggest
positivity. I do. We got to see them in multiple games now together.
As you should, right? Because last year, I'll try to frame it like this. Last year, we were positive, even later on in the year with another Joel injury and the dropping in standings. And what did we end up getting?
The idea of getting Joel back.
Right.
Right.
And we were forcing him back too early, and he's not 100%, but I'll still take it because just get him in. And if we end up being the 7th seed and have to play in the play-in, well, as of right now today, they're half a game out of the 10 seed. They're a game and a half out of the 9, which is the Pistons. They're 2.5 out of the 8, which is the Pacers. And they're 4 games out of the 6 seed, avoiding the play-in, who currently sit as the Miami Heat, who are about to trade Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? Like, let's just, they have a lot to do. If, hope. I know. We're hoping for health, and we're hoping
you got the teams like the Magic up there. Like, no Paulo, no Franz right now, somehow 19 and 13. They have to come back down to earth. There's a lot of things that could change this season, man. The Sixers, they can't control their own destiny in this case, man. That's the nice thing over in the Eastern Conference. But
speaking of controlling your own destiny, what a segue to throw my way, brother. The Birds get another crack at locking up the NFC East division with just simply a win. They were not able to do so last week in Washington, losing in the final 6 seconds. We talked about that game ad nauseum. Moving on. However, we're going to get a glimpse of what happened last week because Jalen Hurts is not trending towards playing this week. Kenny Pickett is almost locked into being the starter. Weather's supposed to be shitty from Saturday through like Wednesday in the Philadelphia area. Probably lots of rain, maybe some wind. It's going to be cold. Running the ball is going to be a big factor, which I think would help the Eagles regardless. You know what I mean? Because even though they're playing Cooper Rush with no CD Lamb, we can run the ball. We can stop the run. Can they run the ball? Can they stop the run? That's what this game is most likely going to come down to. Hopefully everyone else is on track to play in this one. But this is a big game still. And it doesn't seem like, it's Kenny Pickett versus Cooper Rush. There's no seed. There's a lot of stars missing. Dallas is already eliminated from the postseason. Yes, I know it's Kelly Green week, all of that. It's Dallas week, whatever. This is a big game because to me, man, I hate to do it. My vision of the 1 seed, my route to getting the 1 seed, I'm out. Like, if they get it, like if Minnesota happens to lose this week and then potentially could beat the Lions next week, then I'll, like, you know what I mean? I'm still hopeful, but I'm not concerned with it anymore. My concern is taking care of business this week with Kenny Pickett, locking up the division, locking up the number 2 seed, and then building yourself a mini bye. It's not only beneficial for Jalen, it's beneficial for everybody else. And then I would just sit 95% of these of your starters, if not 100% in week 18 against the Giants, unless, like I said, the Vikings do lose to Green Bay this week. And there is that possibility that they win the game against Detroit, etc. But my focus is taking care of your own business, controlling your own destiny. Let's just go lock up this 2 seed on Sunday, bro.
Yeah, man. I tend to agree with you. You need to lock up the 2 seed. That is the point. This is the one to get out of the way, and it's against a team that you should be just fine getting it done against. Even the Commanders are better than what the Cowboys are right now, right? We saw how close we were to just locking that one up. If Smitty catches the ball, we're not even worried going into this game today. So I just have a feeling that even if the Eagles came out and played at the level that they did last week, they would be able to win this game against Dallas. I don't expect them to. I expect Kenny Pickett to look a lot better, getting a full week of preparation as the starter. I know they're trying to mystify it in the reports in the media about Jalen's concussion. He's not playing, he's not just going to magically clear concussion protocol Saturday and then play in the game Sunday afternoon and be just fine. You'd be better off with Kenny Pickett at that point, given the progressions throughout the week. So get ready for Kenny Pickett. And quite honestly, man, I get it. He was horrible on 3rd down. It wasn't like the end of the world to me for Kenny Pickett on this last game against the Commanders.
Yeah.
I think he played like a backup. I think we just got so used to like a Nick Foles or even a Gardner Minshew, man, who can just come in and give you a little bit of pizzazz. It's like you're not going to get that from most backup quarterbacks. what I would like to see them do, what I thought he could present coming from Pittsburgh, not necessarily Justin Fields level, of course, no. But I thought he could use his legs a little bit more than what he used them in that game against the Commanders. So just finding the right spots. But once again, getting a full week to prep with Saquon in the backfield. Most of the time he's probably prepping with the Kenneth Gainwells and the Will Shipleys. So just getting those reps in with Saquon, getting those reps in with AJ, Smitty this week. I'm with you. I want to get this out of the way. I want to get this W. And to your point, man, this is a game where you should be able to lean on Saquon if you just need to get this one.
That's what I'm looking for.
Not saying run him into the ground.
Yeah.
But you're going against what? The bottom 3 rush defense in the NFL. You should be able to run him into the end zone. This is a little
bit less about Kenny Pickett for me and more about Kellen and Nick putting together a game plan where it doesn't matter if Dallas wants to load the box, right? Because if Dallas wants to overload the box, Kenny Pickett's good enough to get the ball to A.J. Brown in space.
Don't turn the ball over.
But if the Cowboys want to throw an extra guy or two in the box, right, can they come up with a game plan that is able to design Saquon Barkley and this offensive line room to run? And they should be able to do so, bro. Like, my point is, like, we watched last week, right? And it's like, well, it's Kenny Pickett. It's not Jalen. Yes, it showed you how valuable Jalen is, and especially to the rushing attack. And it opens up things for Saquon, just like Saquon opens up things for Jalen and the passing game. Yeah. But, like, bro, we've watched Saquon Barkley run behind the line, the Giants' offensive line with Daniel Jones playing quarterback and Tommy DeVito playing quarterback. Yeah. Like, if Saquon Barkley was able to do that, he can run behind this line with Kenny Pickett playing quarterback. You just have to design the game plan to do so. So that's what I am looking for. Maybe Kenny under center a little bit more, right, instead of in the gun and these delayed handoffs and stuff. No, just get the ball north-south and let 2-6 find a hole and go to work. So that's certainly what I am looking forward to, man. But I do also want to throw out there, like, unless they are hiding and being very subtle with how badly Kenny Pickett's ribs are, there should be no conversation within this fan base about Tanner McKee versus Kenny Pickett. I will agree with our man at Beard and Knowledge, Phil. Yes, if Kenny Pickett's ribs are just are banged up and we don't know about it, then maybe having a guy who has a little bit more flexibility with his arm, like in this game, whether or not he's played before, whatever. But outside of that, there's no fucking question. I don't know where people think they like have just this uber football knowledge that no one else has. And they've seen Tanner McKee sling the rock before. And it doesn't matter that Kenny's a former number 1 overall pick and a starter for 2 years. Like, no, Kenny Pickett knows how to run and operate an NFL huddle. And whether it was pretty or ugly at times, he wasn't terrible last week against the Commanders. He was just thrown into an awful position in the beginning of the first quarter without any week of prep. You play and you start the guy who's done it before, not Tanner fucking McKee, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever goes through people's heads.
I don't even think Kenny Pickett was that bad last week for a guy that has to step in unexpectedly in a hot division battle, right? We saw him with the early interception, but man, he had just completed that pass. I get it. It's a young quarterback mistake. It's annoying to see that interception, but it just worked the drive before. You have a guy like AJ Brown. You're going to trust it, man.
Kenny Pickett was 14 of 24. We can count 3 specific drops.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was about to say.
Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown.
We don't even have this combo.
Right, you're talking about at minimum 16 or 17 of 24 for over $160, $170, a touchdown pass. Like, I do, like, Kenny Pickett to me wasn't really the problem. It was just the limitation of what the offense could do at, like, overall. You know what I mean? Like, that's all it was. So, yeah, it's definitely a stupid conversation.
Smitty catches the ball. Kenny Pickett leads a game-sealing drive to beat the Washington Commanders to seal the NFC East.
And then what's the tone around Washington and Philly and everything, right? Because if that happens, I promise you, man, if 6 seconds don't happen or if Devontae Smith catches the ball, we're the baddest team in the league. We were able to go in Washington and survive and do that without Jalen Hurts. We're the best fucking team in the league. But because 6 seconds make that difference, the fucking tables have turned completely in people's minds.
Let me ask you this. Any concerns with the defense moving forward?
Well, if there are any that like are underlying, we're not going to know about them over the next 2 weeks. So we're either going to go on a carpet ride in the postseason and
very
be the
true.
team I think we are, or we're going to get smacked in the face with a dose of reality on the defensive side in the postseason, because Cooper Rush and Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott are not going to be what tears this defense apart. And whoever the fuck is starting for the Giants against potentially backups is not going to tell us anything. So with that said, we're either going to get hit with some hard truth in the postseason, or we're a very good team like we think we are.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with you. I saw, a couple people, maybe questioning Vic Fangio a little bit.
Dude, I can't take it. Like, again, public service announcement. A coordinator had a bad quarter. A unit had a bad quarter. Is it fucking let me ask you this, man. Even though the Steelers aren't like a top 3 team to people, do you think the Steelers defense still gets regarded as a top 2 or 3 defense in the league? Like, by most accounts, by most people, do you think people would still say the Steelers are a top 3 or 5 defense in the league, right? How many weeks have they been fucking shredded?
Yeah. I agree. I don't think they're a top defense, necessarily top 2 or 3, but
people do. People do.
People will still say that going into a matchup in the postseason with Pittsburgh. Watch out for that.
My whole thing is this,
defense.
right? My whole thing is this, right? Like, before the Ravens defense was their kryptonite, it wasn't good enough, but now it's playing better, so that now everyone's bought into the Ravens because the defense is better. The Eagles defense was fantastic, had a very bad quarter. Now there's all these question marks about a quarter. Guys, recency bias needs to get the fuck out of your mind. Like, there is a 17-game schedule played for a reason. There are going to be great moments. There are going to be bad moments. The fourth quarter was a bad moment for the Eagles, in which Tristan McCollum was playing safety instead of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Jordan Davis never returned. Josh Sweat was banged up. They already had injuries to the defensive line and missing Brandon Graham and being short there anyway. PSA, it fucking happens. Like, oh my God. We're questioning Vic Fangio because of a fourth quarter in Washington. As if it just depletes everything else his defense has done this year.
Did Jaden Daniels figure him out?
What?
Did Jaden Daniels figure him out?
Oh my God. Fuck out of here, dude. Yeah, Jaden Daniels.
Good news is we'll get to see Jaden Daniels most likely first round of the postseason.
Good. You're right. That offense that turned the ball over 5 fucking times. Yeah, give me that team.
No worries, it's coming. We'll get the tests, man.
No, it's coming. Green Bay won it. It's almost like locked in potentially that it's 2-7 us and Washington. So definitely something we're going to be keeping an eye on, man.
It'd take like some type of miracle for that to not happen, basically.
Yep.
So
correct.
Cheers. It'll be fun, man.
I do agree. This is to Brian. There's Brian, and he actually comes in with some truth and something you can question Vic Fangio on is Tristan McCollum should not be playing over Sidney Brown. I don't know what he sees or what goes on throughout the practice week and what we're not understanding. There's no shot in hell that dude should be playing over that kid in that time, right? But again, he was in the area. Things happen. Just like the Devontae Smith drop happened last week, Zach Bond, who's been fucking money all year and was money in this game forcing turnovers, had a bonehead moment. He didn't know where he was on the field, and it cost the Eagles the game. So things happen. The team lost the game. All right, man. You know what I mean? All right. Then fucking
got to move on, but got to get a W this weekend for sure.
I will say this, to wrap up, even with Kenny Pickett getting the start, Scotty, I'm not going to lie to you. There is almost like a 0% doubt in my mind that the Eagles win this game. I don't care that it's Kenny Pickett. I don't care about the weather. They're not losing this football game. The NFC East will be ours again come 4:30 on East Coast time, Sunday afternoon. So with that, that's just where I'm at right now with this team, and then get healthy. Because, again, that's the only thing that stops you guys. You guys in your own way, and you guys not having your full personnel and talent on the field. So get healthy, and let's go on this run in a few weeks.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett, it is interesting, man. I do tend to agree with you. We shouldn't have any issues here. I think this is one of those where, this is where, Sirianni could fuck something up. Like that's the type of situation that would have to take place for the Eagles to lose this game. That's something that would, like, in my mind, how can they lose this game? It's Kenny Pickett turning the ball over, doing dumb shit, but also Nick Sirianni putting him in position, Kellen Moore putting him in positions to turn the ball over and do dumb shit. So,
correct. Here's the thing, and I know he's got the laughing faces, and this is what I'm telling you, but I can't read text and know whether he's sarcastic or not. You do realize, if you are being serious, that this conversation we had was with Jalen Hurts starting at quarterback last week. Like, the we ain't losing to this team in Washington last week had to do with the fact that Jalen Hurts was starting. I'm putting my stamp on it now, knowing Kenny's playing. The only thing I'll say back to you, bro, is I do agree that's the one way they can lose this game, but it still shouldn't come down to it. It still shouldn't matter, because you're not playing Dak Prescott versus Kenny Pickett. You're playing Cooper fucking Rush.
Yeah.
With no CD Lamb. Like, this game, the Dallas Cowboys offense should not be able to do a goddamn thing against this Eagles defense on Sunday afternoon. If they are to lose, I promise you, I don't want to hear another word about Jalen Hurts quarterbacking this team again. Because we've had it over and over again.
With Tanner McKee, Dylan. They needed to play Tanner McKee.
See, Brian, I already talked about this. It's a shame you missed it.
He's setting it up.
You get
it?
I would love to know the inside access you have at practice and the film you have to acknowledge that Tanner McKee is better than Kenny Pickett. And you're saying our best QB overall, probably, because I know you too well by now. So no, Tanner McKee should not be starting any game. 13-10, 6-3, like last night's Thursday Night Football game. I do not care. Just go get it done, and let's clinch the NFC East and the 2 seed and not have to worry about Week 18 unless we have an outside shot for the 1 seed, and that'll be all excitement. But let's get on out of here, man, because my laptop is about to die. So that would just add the icing on top to everything else that's went wrong this show. Brian, I promise you have not watched Tanner McKee make NFL throws in actual NFL games that actually fucking mean, because the preseason does not matter against 3rd and 4th stringers, Brian. So no, you don't know that he's making NFL throws. Thank you so much for tuning back in. As always, it's appreciated. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, follow on Twitter at DSM_media. Like the video, share it with your friends, family, other sports fans, Philly sports fans specifically. Go Birds, go Sixers, and enjoy your weekend.
Go Birds.